Good Monday morning. Your radio dial is set to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. Your highlight of the week, Patrick Wooten, Rebecca Keith, Michael Traylor here on your radio dial on this Easter week Monday, April the 14th, the day before we all either have to give money to Uncle Sam or hopefully get money back from Uncle Sam. So let's all start to support a flat tax or something so we don't have to write checks to Uncle Sam.
I'm for it.
Yes,
yeah,
but if you'd like to join us, you can call us on the Supertalk call line, 888-808-8637, or text us on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I know we were talking beforehand, and we'll talk real quick. So Rebecca is one of our fabulous litigation attorneys, does an amazing job at the firm. So settled cases, and settled a bunch of six-figure cases here in the not-too-distant past, and does a great job. So we're excited to have her. And then Michael was Mr. Workers' Comp. So I think that's what you were in the calendar from April 1st is Mr. You were, the month of May, Mr. Workers' Comp or something like that.
Is that what it was? That sounds good.
That's right.
I like it.
You like it, Mr. Workers' Comp. So, but you've got the Workers' Comp convention coming up. Was it last week?
It was last week.
It was last week?
Yeah.
Yep.
We had that down at the Beau Rivage. It's the just a quick summary of that. It's the Mississippi Workers' Comp Education Association's annual conference that we put on. I sit on the board.
Yep.
Actually, I'm currently board president, about to roll off.
And you're like, yeah.
Yes, it's bittersweet, but ready to allow the next person to step up. But it was good. We were down at the Beau Rivage from I was there Tuesday through Friday, but the conference itself was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
And it's an opportunity for people throughout the entire workers' comp community to get continuing education credits, to network, of course, and to just have an opportunity also to get out of the office and do that. And Schwartz and Associates was a prime sponsor of that event. So
Yes.
We had a nice banner going across the foyer for everyone to see. I think our sign actually, everything was in alphabetical order, but it lucked out that our sign just happened to be over the doors that everybody was going.
Nice, I like it. Very good. Money.
Whether
money,
I had
money,
anything to do with that,
That's right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that will get that prime spot next year since you're rolling off. But that was good. I know I got to go in 24. Didn't get to go this year, but it's a good time.
It is.
And, of course, I laugh. I saw a bunch of people last year when I went because, as you know, I started on the workers' comp side. On the other side, on the defense side, so saw adjusters and vote people and attorneys. So it is a nice time to go and interface with people and just reminisce and catch up. So it's good.
Yep.
And believe it or not, folks, lawyers do have to get continuing legal education every year. We have to get 12 hours a year, including an ethics hour. So that is something we actually have to get. And the ethics hour is in person. It's not online. It's not one of those online things. So we actually do continue to try to learn each year and changes in the law, of which we can talk about if the legislature did anything to workers' comp this session and, litigation. So it is helpful that we get to do that.
It is.
So,
It is.
Yep. And then we talked a little bit about the Masters, and I know Mike from Madison, I got to put these glasses on already, text in, it was Rory's year, sixth golfer to win the Grand Slam. I mean, I do chuckle that even my wife was like all invested in watching the Masters yesterday afternoon, and just my son was over, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter who's almost 2, which is so funny. We actually now have a video of her that she's going Rory, so which was since Bryson fell apart after hole number 2, but that's impressive.
It was. I'm not a huge. I don't dislike golf. I don't play other than Top Golf, if that counts.
Which is so much fun.
Yeah, but and I'm not a huge baseball fan either. But I found myself yesterday afternoon switching back and forth between the Masters and the Ole Miss Tennessee.
And
game.
Ole Miss lost and got lost at the end.
They did. But Rory just watching, I'm like, okay, he's got this. And then I was like, he doesn't. He's giving it up. And then I was like, all right, he's got it again. Yeah. And so it was a fun day. It was beautiful. Yeah,
weather was great. Unlike Monday when I was there, which was horrible, but yeah, it was amazing. So, and TV doesn't do it justice. Anyone who's ever had the benefit of going, and you can enter the ticket lottery for free starting next month if you ever have a desire to go to Augusta. Just know you're going to pay a ridiculous sum for a hotel room at the tournament, but TV does not do it justice as to how absolute hilly that course is.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, and the elevation changes. Like, I was there Monday because I won tickets for the first time in the lottery with my 87-year-old father, my son, and his best friend. And so when they sounded the horn at 11:25, that time's going to be ingrained. My dad and I were unfortunately down at 17, and so you have to go all the way back up to where the clubhouse was, and we stopped. I said, look at the elevation change. And even my dad, who's a Vietnam vet, Army career officer, paratrooper, ranger, he's like, that's more than I thought it was. Yeah. So now, granted, he's 87, but yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Well, I'm always curious, when you're looking on TV, as you said, it doesn't do it justice, but I'm like, surely they're coming in and they're spraying green on this grass or doing something. How do they keep it like that? It just looks like it's just perfect.
It is perfect. There is not a lick of trash on that course. I can only imagine what their budget is to keep that course in the pristine condition that it is. Now, what you don't see is in the practice rounds, they literally have tarps now, which water and air and everything can get through over the tee boxes. So, like, the players can't actually hit off the actual tee boxes because they want them to look pristine on TV. So, for example, 12, if everyone knows, I know we're boring people with golf, is the par 3 that goes right over Rays Creek. It's the middle hole of Amen Corner. So it's funny, like, they go hit to the side, actually to the side of the tee boxes just to get the feel. So, I know in the practice rounds they're making sure that the course is not getting torn up, and then they just get that grounds crew is out there. It seems like 24 hours a day.
I think they have a devoted diet for each blade of grass. Yeah, it's like, a whole game plan.
Have to.
Yeah, it's amazing. The manicuring, the perfection of that course, the grounds around the course.
Yep.
It's something. I've never been, but I've played a good bit of golf in East Alabama and, West Georgia and some of those hills and where the azaleas and everything just blooms so well. But, man, there's nothing like the setting at the Masters.
Here's the point. When you get to the tournament, because I've been fortunate enough, I won tickets in the lottery to go Monday. A buddy's company goes every year and takes a bunch of vendors, and 10 years ago they had an extra ticket. So I actually got to go to a Friday afternoon and Saturday round. But there they have, after the players tee off on the tee box, they have guys with brooms. They're literally picking up, anything. If they took a divot with them, they're picking them up. They're immediately replacing it and put it right. So it's like the tee box, when the next group comes up, looks absolutely pristine, as if, no one had ever hit from it. So it's unreal. They have guys with long, it's not a blade. It's almost like a stalk of bamboo, because they're making sure the blades of the grass are going the right direction. It is nuts.
That's one of those one of those running jokes about attorneys and looking out the window and watching someone mowing the lawn. You're like, that looks like a fabulous job. If I was sitting next to Augusta there, I'd be like, I'll take that one on certain days.
Hey, Mike in Madison says the Masters has these large machines that can literally pick up whole trees and move them to change up the arrangement.
Oh, yeah. It's unreal what they do, how they change up the course each and every year. Because it's even my daughter, who was 16, was kind of watching. She's like, they play the same course every day? She's like, doesn't that get boring? I'm like, well, that's how golf tournaments do it. I said, they change the position of the cup on the green. So I said, in Augusta's so crazy, you could be on a top tier, middle tier. It's unbelievable. So it is. I would encourage everyone to go. If you have any interest in golf, or even my wife, who's not a huge golf person, it's kind of said it would be cool just to go to experience it, because now you see it on TV and you're like, I was there. Like my dad, who's not a big golfer, was like, this weekend, I'm going to be like, I was there. I walked that hole. I saw, I took a picture there. And that is the fun of the practice round, is you can take a camera. Can't do that you can't take a cell phone. You got to keep your cell phone in your car. Yeah. So it is nice. Like, you get completely disconnected from the world while you're there. But
how do they patrol that? I'm curious.
You go through a metal detector. Yeah, so to get on the course, you literally go through a metal detector. Like my wallet came out of my pocket. My keys had to come out of it. It's like a full-fledged. So if it's going to beep, they're going to pat you down. Like, they're literally going through, if you had a purse and purse size was limited, they were looking through people's purses or bags to make sure. Like my camera bag, they made me open up, and they went through the camera bag to make sure I didn't have something in there that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. So
that may be worth it too, just to have a day away from the phone.
Have a handful of Titleists, you just throw out on the
exactly.
Whose ball is that?
That's right. So that would be hilarious. But it was fun. They did say a few years ago a patron, because they don't call them fans, went and grabbed a handful of sand from a bunker and got charged with criminal trespassing, and said it cost him $20,000 in legal fees to defend. And I think he's permanently banned from attending the Masters now. So you are listening to the Schwartz & Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. We will come back and talk about the law, workers' compensation, litigation. We're going to talk about the biggest value killers in a case here on Supertalk. And if you want to join us after the break, you can call us at 888-808-8637, and we'll be right back. Heads here on the Schwartz & Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour on Monday, April the 14th. Of Easter week, which looks like it's going to be an absolutely spectacular week of weather here in Mississippi. And boy, this weekend weather was, Chamber of Commerce. Absolutely amazing. So was great. So hope everyone had a great weekend. We are going to talk about the law. So I wrote down biggest value killers on a case. 2 are going to make sense to people, and I think 1. Our listeners will probably scratch their head a little bit. So, number 1 would be delay in medical treatment. And you litigate a whole bunch of cases, Rebecca. So, what's kind of that fine line of you can wait, you're in a wreck, your adrenaline's flowing, and some people are like, I just don't like going to doctors. I'll be fine. But then they realize they're not fine, and so they eventually go. What's kind of the line of demarcation to where the insurance company's like, yeah, that's explainable. You waited X amount of time versus, yeah, we have no idea if that's related to the wreck?
Normally we encourage, clients to go within 72 hours of any kind of incident. But if you wait more than a month, that's when it starts to get questionable because, the insurance companies are looking to explain away your injury. So you may have had another injury between the incident and, when you actually go seek medical treatment. So it's really, really important to go as soon as possible if you're able to. So that would be the biggest encouragement to go.
Yeah. How does that, Michael, does that apply in workers' comp too?
Oh, absolutely. That, and sometimes in workers' comp world, it's even more challenging because, when people are getting injured on the job and perhaps they're worried or scared about telling their employer that they got injured or asking for them to send them to medical treatment because in those situations, the medical bills are being covered by their employer's work comp insurance, not their own personal health insurance. So we see that all the time. And I just like to encourage people to say, look, and I understand there are those injuries that occur. It's like, let me see what's going to happen. Let me see if I'm going to feel better. But ideally within a week, I would say at least. So that way you're remembering your date of injury. You can report it to them. Too much time gets by, and just as Rebecca was saying, what's happened in between. Yep. So I wouldn't say there's no legal statutory line of demarcation there, but as early as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, the next one I had is missing medical appointments.
Yeah, that's huge, especially if you've been assigned physical therapy visits, and normally they're you go 2 or 3 times a week, and so it's really important to go the recommended 2 or 3 times a week. Now, if you come down with an illness, and that can be explained, but if you miss more than 2 or 3 weeks of physical therapy, that is very hard to kind of explain and try to add value to your case. It's just very difficult to do at that point.
Yeah, and then I think the one thing we need to tell folks is if you get it, like you flu, we just got through the season of yellowing, so everyone's allergies, we're just killing them, is if you're going to miss, is call. It's not just don't do the no-show, because what you don't want on the medical records is where it says no-show. It's fine if they're like, patient called, is sick, has the flu, or child has the flu, they can't come in today. Like you said, that's easily explainable, but it's no show that is just killing the value of your case.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
no show is the worst. Absolutely, because in the work comp world, there's most of the time you're probably going to be getting a check for being off work from the work comp insurance company, and they want to see that active treatment ongoing. And if you're not showing up for physical therapy sessions, well, I'm getting a call pretty quickly, like what's going on with your client. So if they didn't call at all, big problem. Another problem could be, especially with the doctor's office, and probably more so when you're getting to some of these specialists, if you don't call and let them know, they may just discharge you.
Yep.
They may not want to see you again as well. They have other patients that are coming in. So if you're going to miss, let them know.
Yep.
Get it rescheduled.
Yeah.
And things will be great.
Now, the other big, it's I put for a value killer, which is not going to apply to workers' comp, but will to a car wreck case, motorcycle case, a slip and fall, is venue. I mean, I know you have this conversation with clients all the time when we're like, oh, this happened in Rankin County. It didn't happen in Hines County. And so you're having to have that I literally had that conversation with a very sweet client last week, and because it happened in Rankin County. So what do I mean by that? Give me your spill on how you explain that to clients, Rebecca.
Well, we try to explain, of course, how jury trials work, and then, of course, trying to convince, 9 of 12 people, that your case is supported by evidence that you were injured and then you had some damages. But then you have to convince, some counties are more conservative than others, which means that they really don't like giving out huge jury verdicts. And there are several counties in Mississippi like that. It's not just our neighbor next to or east of us, but there are several counties, and so we always have to kind of prepare the clients that, we may not be getting a huge verdict in these counties, and so it's really important that they have at least some concept of that before we get into discussing a possible jury trial.
Yeah, and it is crazy. And we're going to look. I mean, and under the law in Mississippi, you have 2 choices of where to file a lawsuit. It's where the accident happened, so the county where the accident happened, or the county where the defendant resides. So needless to say, if you're in a car wreck and it happened in Rankin County or one of those very other conservative counties when it comes to jury values, you're going to look, okay, is that driver from another county that is maybe a little more moderate with regard to things. But yeah, trying to explain that to somebody is a challenge, or even, because I know that doesn't apply in workers' comp at all, but the other thing could be is if we get these catastrophic cases, which unfortunately we get from time to time, is explaining the cap to somebody, our non-economic cap in Mississippi.
Yeah, and that could be really difficult to understand as well, and it depends on who the defendant is. If it's a medical doctor, it's usually capped at a certain. I think it's like
$500,000 is non-economics.
Yeah. So it's really difficult to explain that. Well, my case is worth much more. In reality, that may be true, but the other stronger reality is that Mississippi enacted the tort reform, I think, back in 2002 in the Flowers case. I think, and so it's in many other states, like I think Georgia just recently passed their tort reform, and so they're going to go through some of those pains that we've been encountering for the last 20-something years. So it's going to be interesting to see how that state handles that. But we're under tort reform, and it hasn't really been changed that much as far as I know by the legislature. So, and they're the ones who control that.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, a medical malpractice case, the non-economics $500,000. If you in a car wreck case, it's $1 million, and it hadn't changed in 23 years. Well, we all know that gas is more expensive, milk's more expensive. They've never indexed it to inflation, which would be nice. But yeah, you're right. Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee don't have all those same caps. So if you ever hear on the news, someone got $10 million or $8 million, whatever. That's extremely difficult to do in Mississippi because you could get your medical bills, past, present, future, your lost wages, past, present, future, so whatever those work out to be. But then on top of that, it's $1 million. When you're hearing those crazy huge amounts from other states, it's typically the non-economic, which people refer to as pain and suffering, and we have a cap on that. You don't deal with that. There's no pain and suffering in comp, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, no pain and suffering. We do, though, deal with caps, and also, unfortunately, our caps on workers' comp are a lot more stringent. As far as a weekly benefit that somebody can get when they're off work, I think we may be up to, and it does go up every year, so they at least have that in there, but it's very limited. It's a little over $600 a week that somebody could get. So, all right, if you were making $900 a week before you got injured, maybe that's not terrible. But if you were making $2,000 a week before you got injured, you're in a bit of a spot there. And in addition to just the weekly cap or the amount, there's a number of weeks cap on there. So 450 weeks, no matter how bad your injury is, which I think equates to a little over 8.5 years, which is less than 9 years, I think, that's the max you're ever going to get. So at least on the disability side. So we have some of those same frustrations. If we could get it up to $500,000 at least in one category, I think that'd be a win for us. But unfortunately, that's not the case as we said.
I gotcha. I know you said Lance. I think we have a caller. So nope, they're gone.
He's going to call us back.
Okay.
We were going into the break.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Well, hey, little Michael Jackson as we go out on segment number 2 here on the Schwartz & Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Schwartz & Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour as we race into the third segment of the show. So wanted to talk about a couple things. So Richard, who is not on the show with us today, did send me a text. The legality of car sleeping in Mississippi. What you need to know. Not that I've never done it. I've never on a long road trip pulled over somewhere. But for those of you who want to do it, it is legal to sleep in your car in Mississippi for up to 8 hours, as there is no state law out there to do it, which is pretty interesting.
You? Is it on the honor system?
I guess it's on the honor system.
It's 7:59. I'm good. I got one more minute. Quit knocking on my window.
I don't know. It makes me think of Nick Saban's commercial in the Airbnb or VRBO when it's like the family shows up and he's like, check-in time is 4, and they're like, it's 3:55. He goes, I know. So someone at 8:01, we're slapping a ticket on your windshield. But, it's interesting. Rest stops, you're allowed to spend the night at a rest stop in Mississippi. It says Mississippi allows overnight parking at rest stops for safety and rest, but it's not for recreational camping.
I was going to say, wouldn't that be a great vacation? Just like hit all the
I'm going to hit all the That's right. You're going to map the state to camp at all the rest stops.
They have the best cheeseburger. They got the best fried chicken, and you just go to your car.
That vending machine gives the coldest Cokes out there in the States, which would be funny. And then it talks about Walmart. Walmart permits customers to sleep in their parking lots.
I think some of them even have hookups.
Really?
In some of the polls, that if you check with them in advance. Now, I'm not sure about Mississippi, but I think you can if you, in advance, check with them. They may let you plug in.
Yeah. I've never done it. I mean, I've done some long road trips. I guess the longest I've ever driven, one fell swoop, is probably 12 hours by myself from here up to Charlottesville, Virginia, when I was headed to the JAG school for the Army.
Was that pre-Red Bull?
That was pre-Red Bull, and I was proud of myself. I made one stop. I literally had a full tank of gas, left here at like 6 a.m., stopped basically Chattanooga, got gas again, got some food, did get like 2 soft drinks, and then cruised all the way into Charlottesville.
Yeah,
so
very nice.
There's no way I could do that now as a 56-year-old. It would be multiple stops trying to make that 12-hour drive. That was back, that was like 1999. So what was I, 31 years old? So, I mean, that was a heck of a long time ago. Different day and time out there. But I thought that was interesting that Richard, I was like, hopefully Richard's not thinking about sleeping in his car. Is why he sent me that.
I wonder why he's looking that up.
That's right. It's like, what is going through his TikTok feeds? I want to know that he's getting fed that. But and then Mike from Madison, who we do appreciate being a loyal listener to the show, brought up a great one. So the the circuit court and chancery court districts in Mississippi are having some big changes coming up. So we as lawyers kind of know if we're in this district, we're going to get this judge. That judge is nicer to deal with. That judge is a little more challenging to deal with. And the legislature has completely shuffled some things up because they are getting rid of single judge districts, which I get is logical. I mean, I know of some chancery districts that only have one judge, and you do think about if that judge has a conflict, where are they pulling another chancery judge from?
Right.
If he gets sick, what if that judge gets the flu or gets COVID or anything, and he's out for a week or whatever? I mean, completely changes up the dynamics of the docket, because generally the single judge district I'm thinking of is 4 counties, I think. So he's basically rotating each month through the counties. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting mix as we all as lawyers have to learn differences. I think the normal, citizen out there is not going to see a difference other than, you're combining what was a single district judge to now there's 2 or 3. So they may know Judge X, but they could have a case and get Judge Y because he's in that county as well.
Right.
So it's always interesting.
Well, and that's another reason too that in a lot of these cases it's important to have an attorney involved on it, because it especially if now it is switching from no single judge districts, it's a little bit more unpredictable maybe in each district with that involved. And so we're in front of them enough to at least you get a general idea of their rulings and how they view cases. So, in the work comp world, we don't have to look at that as much. We have 8 judges; they do rotate, but it's always the same 8 judges. So they all handle Central Mississippi cases, but then they each break out into districts in 4 different ones throughout the state.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So we got a caller.
We got Bob on the call. He's ready to go.
All right. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. Hey, I enjoyed the Masters conclusion yesterday. It was really good. I'm not a big golfer myself, but I love watching it, and it ended up the way I wanted it to end, so that's a good thing. My question for y'all today is, have you ever felt like your client wasn't compensated the right amount of damages on a personal injury or workman's comp case? And I wanted to follow up with that and ask y'all, is the insurance business, in your personal opinion, does it need a lot of reform or reshape in regards to personal injury cases, workman's comp cases, and damages or awards that are set forth for clients? And do y'all go by a book when with insurance companies when they pay out a claim? Do they go by a book or some type of reference for each individual injury?
Great question, Bob. So first, do I ever feel like, and I'm sure Michael and Rebecca can chime in too, do I ever feel like my client has not been, I'm going to use the term made whole, hasn't got enough money? The answer to that's yes. Typically, that's when the policy limits are insufficient. Mississippi's $25,000. You can have injuries that are definitely worth more than $25,000, and unfortunately, if that's all the tortfeasor has and the client doesn't have any underinsured motorist coverage, your hands are tied to collect that amount. And then, a few other situations I've had, and I'm sure Rebecca has, clients who take an offer that we tell them not to take, but, they just want to be done with a case. I mean, most people, if you went and asked them, they don't want a trial. They don't want to go to trial. They would prefer not to be involved in the litigation process. So you'll get people from time to time who just, hey, the insurance company's offered X or the defense lawyer has offered Y, and they're like, what would I get? You do the math, and I just want to take it. I just want to be done with this. I want to close this chapter and move on to the next. But that's, in my experience, the 2-time clients have not been made whole. Generally, policy limits, I wish our policy limits were higher than $25,000, but I started back in the day when our limits were $10,000. So 25 is a heck of a lot better than 10, but I wish we had, 40 or 50 as our minimum, because I think it would definitely make it, a better situation for our clients. I don't know this for sure, but I've heard that says 2 out of every 3 drivers in Mississippi generally carry the minimum, is what I've always been told through the insurance world. So that's pretty scary when you can go to the emergency room and one ER bill is $18,000, $20,000, whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another scenario where not compensated appropriately would be when you have a verdict or a judge ruling on it.
That's right.
Because there are those times, if it does go that far, that you don't know what the outcome's going to be, and there's, doesn't happen often at Schwartz and Associates, but there's times where maybe you don't get what you think is the fair amount from a jury or from a judge. So, and those hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Bob had mentioned, I think his second question about does the insurance industry need revamping or something to that effect, and that's a good question. Sometimes I'm against too much regulation on things. Let people kind of do and let the market set it. But one thing that, and I don't know if this would be possible, but one thing I do see in the claims industry at time, and this is no knock on them because this could maybe on attorneys as well, but you'll have claims examiners or claims adjusters handling just way too many files.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard when they're, and it's not them, it's probably the insurance company they work for is putting too much of a load on them. And it's very hard to keep your head above water, once you get past a certain threshold. So, and of course, that'd be person to person. I mean, one person can handle 100 claims, maybe one person can handle more. But I think that would be beneficial for us to have some type of, bar set there.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing, you could probably attest to this, Rebecca, is there's no consistency with the insurance companies. We literally can have the same case and have, that defendant has insurance A, and we're like, okay, we'll get that case resolved. Oh, no, they have insurance company B, and you're going to be fighting tooth and nail. So there's no consistency.
That's correct. They kind of operate in their own separate policies and procedures, so we're kind of subject to that as well.
Yeah, which is crazy because you can have injuries in the same county. We know it's a good venue, but one insurance company thinks you're taking it right out of the adjuster's own pocket, and the other one is like, okay, we understand, the true value of that case, so it makes it pretty challenging. Hey, we appreciate you listening as always, Bob, and asking great questions. So hope you have a wonderful Monday as we get through the third segment here on the Schwartz & Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour, and we'll be back right after this. The Schwartz & Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. So appreciate you listening. I know, Bo kind of chimed in talking about abusing insurance. Here's the point. There are bad apples everywhere. There's bad radio producers, not the one behind the glass there.
What? Hold on, man.
There are bad lawyers. There's bad, truck drivers. There's, bad plumbers everywhere. So, I think the benefit of having lawyers is you're actually not going to abuse it because we're the ones that are going to cull through the cases. And if you see somebody who's actually trying to commit insurance fraud or do like that, you're generally going to kick those to the curb. You're not going to handle those cases. So lawyers actually provide a safety net in the process to make sure that folks are out there, and you provide education. I mean, that's what this show's designed, is to provide education just to be able to understand for what's out there. But we're going to hit you rapid fire legal trivia because I have two of the smartest attorneys.
Rebecca and I are looking at each other like,
and none of these are music related, so you're out of your wheelhouse.
I'm already in trouble.
So easiest to hardest. So we'll start easy. This is actually question number 1. So this is supposed to be the easiest question from this website, Water Cooler Trivia. On the books since 1986, a federal law that may allow an employee to temporarily keep health care coverage after employment ends is most commonly known by what snaky abbreviation?
What is COBRA?
Winner. There you go.
I knew that.
All right.
I knew that one.
All right, number 2. We'll go. I don't know. I'm not a huge Netflix person. Fictional Harvard law grad Frank Underwood was a president who resigned from office on what Netflix series?
Wow. Not a
I never
Netflix
saw
watcher
this
either.
one.
Cards or something?
Oh, look at Lance getting a house of cards.
I
Yeah,
guess.
House of Cards.
Yeah.
All right, we're skipping down.
Was
real
that a
quick.
legal question? I
Yeah,
don't know.
that
It
was
sounds
legal.
like movie.
Yep.
Movie related.
Pop culture legal
All right,
question.
surely you are going to get this one because I would have gotten this one. Aunt Viv's husband, Uncle Phil, runs for Superior Court judge against his former law school mentor in an episode of what 1990s sitcom?
Prince
Fresh
of
Prince of
Bel-Air.
Bel-Air.
Fresh
baby.
Prince of Bel-Air, exactly. There you go.
Love that show.
That was a good one. All right, we'll keep skipping down.
Alfonso Ribeiro.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
like that.
You know, the Carlton, the dance, the Carlton.
The Carlton
I mean, the
dance.
Carlton dance. Yep. Okay. I'm going to be impressed if you get this one. With the passing of the Bitcoin law in June of 2021,
Where's Cooper?
yeah, which Central American nation became the first country in the world to have a form of cryptocurrency as legal tender?
Was it Ecuador or no?
Not Ecuador.
I'm trying to think of the guy.
Panama?
No.
El Salvador.
El Salvador
I knew
it is.
I knew it was E.
That's right. There you go. All right, we'll skip down a couple more as we go through. That's too easy. You would get that one. That's too easy. Oh, here we go. Under the 1982 United Nations Law of Sea Convention. So the United Nations Law of the Sea Convention. How far out from a shore do a nation's territorial waters stretch where the country has full jurisdiction over vessels?
12 miles.
12, what kind of not miles?
Nautical.
Nautical miles, exactly.
I knew that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We're going down to into the 90s. We're going to make it.
What is the difference in a nautical mile and a normal mile?
I have no
Did
idea.
it count for the wave?
I
or something,
don't know. That's why we have a fabulous firm we partner with out of New Orleans that handles all these offshore cases because that's a very specific type of law. All right, we'll give you another movie question. In My Cousin Vinny,
Uh-oh, my favorite movie.
the titular, is that right? Titular character,
Titular.
Sounded fine.
Yeah, it
titular
sounded
character,
X-rated.
character fools a trial judge who has what 10-letter first name, which is also the title of a profession which manages the household of a sovereign or other noble figure. Basically,
Wow.
what's the judge's first name in My Cousin Vinny?
Oh no.
I'm stumped.
Well, I know it was. It's Herman Munster that
It is
played
Herman
that.
I knew Herman Munster. Yeah. Come on, if it's
And
your favorite movie.
I've probably seen it within the last 2 to 3 months too.
Starts with a C, 10 letters.
Constable?
Nope.
Don't know.
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain. Judge Chamberlain
Yeah.
Halla Hunt or something like that.
Yep.
Chamberlain Halla, I think that was his name.
So, all right. So that was bad. All right, we'll try one more real quick. In 1777, Frederick the Great of Prussia tried to outlaw coffee houses, hoping that the populace would return to drinking what other beverage instead?
Beer?
Beer. That's it. Beer. Ended on a high note.
All right.
So you are listening to the Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. If you need us for a workers' comp case, a Social Security case, car wreck, auto, truck wreck, motorcycle wreck, slip and fall, dog bite, we're just one call away. One call, that's all. Have a safe and healthy week. 601-662-988-8888. That's how you reach us. Take care.